And you're aware, as it states in allegation 18 on page 4, you were aware around June 3rd that Johnson himself admitted that he and Linetti discussed the $10,000 per acre foot purchase price, and that Linetti was willing to accept $10,000 per acre foot at an audio recorded closed session between the VVWD board and Johnson held on August 17th, 2010.
What's the question?
The question is, when you reviewed this complaint in very early June, June 3rd, you were aware that the water district had been harmed, that Mr. Linetti was involved, and that potentially Mr. Linetti had liability to the water district.
I was aware that those were allegations.
And that Mr. Linetti faced potential liability from the water district.
How? He hadn't been sued.
That's why I said potential. He faced potential liability from the water district.
Yes.
The meeting took place, or a meeting took place in person with George Benish, you, and John Linetti on June 21st, correct?
Correct.
Lasted about 3 hours.
It lasted about 3 hours.
Anybody else present in that meeting besides you three?
There might have been people walking in and out, but not for any particular length of time.
Who would that have been?
You know, I'd be speculating. I really truly would be, but I'm sure that from time to time I would have called to have somebody bring me something or come and get something or make a copy of something. So, you know, it's highly unlikely that we sat in that room for 3 hours with nobody coming in of it or out of it.
When you met with George Benish, did you discuss the fact that George Benish might need a conflict waiver in order to be involved in the discussion you guys were having?
No. Because I didn't think he needed a conflict waiver for anything that we were discussing.
As you sit here today, you're not certain whether or not George Benish even revealed confidential information, are you?
I'm positive he did.
Have you always been positive of that?
Yes.
I'm looking at a letter from your office dated December 13th, 2012.
Do I have it in front of me?
You don't. I don't believe it's been marked as an exhibit. And Your Honor, I didn't expect we'd be admitting this, but we may need to. I'll hand this letter to you.
Oh, hold on. Show it to Mr. Jordanowski first. Do you have a copy of this, Mr. Jordanowski?
Was that December of 2012, by the way? Is that what you said?
Your Honor, this is a letter from me to Mr. Bingham, so I know I have possession of it somewhere. Didn't expect it to come up at the hearing.
All right, do you have any objection to the potential use of it that apparently is going to occur now?
I prefer Mr. Gentile refresh his recollection if that's what he's planning on using it for.
I plan to actually admit it now based on the answer you just gave the last question. I'd like to admit it into the record.
It's not my statement, Judge.
Well,
Never mind, I'm a witness.
Let me see this. Thank you.
I don't know, Your Honor, how my statement that is highlighted there undermines what Mr. Gentile's testimony is. Mr. Gentile said he's always been positive. This is a letter from me.
All right, you intend to use this highlighted area?
I do.
Okay, I think it's fair and usable, so go ahead.
Judge, would it be okay if I stand here while I ask these
Sure,
questions?
go ahead. You want to have that marked as a potential exhibit?
Yeah, are we on? double Q.
Okay, that'll be double Q proposed, go ahead.
Mr. Gentile, there is in what appears to be the third paragraph, will you read that first sentence?
Is this in evidence?
It's proposed right now, but I'm gonna allow it to happen this way. It's a letter from Mr. Zarnowski and Mr. Bingham.
So can I publish
I've
it?
looked at it. Yeah, go ahead.
Insofar as we are aware, Mr. Benish did not disclose any confidential or privileged information to Mr. Gentile, Mr. Linetti, or any other person connected with our firm.
Okay, do you recognize the signature on that second page?
Yes, I do.
Is that Mr. Zarnowski's signature?
It is.
Okay. So the three attorneys from Gordon Silver that are working on this case are you, Mr. Zarnowski, and Mr. Siciliano, correct?
I'll bet there's more.
Okay.
Okay, and I'll bet there's paralegals, and I'll bet there's all kinds of people working this file. But for the most part, yes, you're right.
When Mr. Zarnowski says insofar as we are aware, do you take it to mean that he's talking about the law firm of Gordon Silver?
I suppose that's a fair inference. I don't necessarily take it to mean that you'd have to ask him what he meant.
The letter doesn't specifically state that Mr. Benish didn't give information. It says insofar as we're aware, he didn't provide confidential information, but you guys aren't actually sure, are you?
I can't speak for anybody. The question you asked me was directed to me in terms of my memory of what occurred on June 21st of 2011 when I met with Mr. Benish. And I am positive that there was nothing discussed that would have even approached the breach of an attorney-client privilege communication. Because I wouldn't have allowed it, Mr. Bingham.
At some point, you decided that George Benish could no longer be involved in what you guys were doing, right?
It was really very shortly after meeting with him and seeing your proposed amended complaint.
But you already knew at that time, as we talked about before, around June 17th, you already knew essentially what the claims were against Mr. Linetti.
I suppose, yeah. I mean, I think there is some difference in your amended complaint, but it would be disingenuous for me to say that I was unaware.
Because basically the criminal action and the civil action were dealing with the same issues, correct?
No, not at all.
Apologies, let me finish that question. One dealing with criminal charges, one dealing with civil liability, but the facts giving rise to both of those were basically the same, correct?
There was an overlap, a substantial overlap.
Specifically as to the 2008 transaction, right?
Yes.
And so you decided that George Benish could no longer be involved because he could potentially become a witness in the case, right?
That's correct.
But it wasn't because you thought that he had conflict.
No, I really didn't think he'd have a conflict. I could see where he would wind up on the wrong end of a subpoena to testify in the criminal case if it went forward. But at that time, I really didn't see a conflict, and candidly, given what he and I discussed, there's nothing he said to me that would give indication to me that he's got a conflict now.